But we're going to get into our weekly segment, our final recap from the LSU game. Much more exciting than last week. Our top 5, bottom 5. I'll let you start it out however you want this time.
Yeah, I guess I'll kick it off with my bottom of my top 5 since it was a win, and we'll talk about the good things. So to me, I've got explosive plays as one of my top 5s. I think that to me, like, we knew that that's what DJ Lagway would bring to the table as part of this offense. Like, I think that was why you had hope that maybe you win the Georgia game if he stays in the second half. Why you have hope that maybe that Texas game goes at least a little bit differently, even though your defense didn't play well. I believe 7 total explosive plays in this game. Wow. A lot. Exclusive. Yeah. So 7 passing plays of more than 15 yards, 4 rushing plays of more than 10. On those passing plays, obviously one of them was 36 yards to Badger, set up the touchdown. Another 34-yarder to DK, a 23-yarder to Badger, a touchdown. And, obviously the 55-yard run from Jaden Paw to kind of ice the game at the end there. Not a lot of, I would say, great down-to-down consistency on offense yesterday for the Gators, but they had some really timely big plays.
I'll definitely be getting into the last part you said there. But my number 5 on top 5 actually is just DJ Lagway. Didn't have the mobility, so you got to give him a lot of credit for coming out there and throwing for 220-something, 30-something yards. I'm not exactly sure the number.
It was 226.
226. Okay, so give him a ton of credit for coming out there and doing that. A lot of people would probably put a lot of the game on him. He also did make some turnover-worthy plays. Maybe a better defense has like 2 picks in that game. Yeah. But he also still had those 36-yarder, the 32-yarder, 2 deep balls to Badger, 1 to DK, 2 good plays to tight ends. So I'm going to give Lagway a lot of credit. I have a number 5. What's your bottom 5, number 5?
Yeah, leading off my bottom 5, I have the time of possession differential. Florida won in spite of some really just mind-blowing numbers in this game. I mean, the fact that, you're looking at a team that only went 3 of 9 on third down, had 7 penalties for 55 yards. The time of possession obviously was the big one, though. They were outpossessed 41 minutes to 18 minutes. I mean, winning a game like that, 25 first downs to 13 first downs, just completely lopsided numbers there. Like hard to believe you scored 27 points and win by 2 scores in a game that played out that way. Obviously didn't hurt you too bad this time around, but I think it easily could have if LSU wasn't having kind of their own issues. So that's something that can't do that again against Ole Miss. That's for sure.
You cannot. So my bottom 5 is going to start with something that could also be looked at as a positive, but I didn't want to give one specific player too much hate because we've given him a ton on this show. So I'm going to say the safety room. Both of the starting safeties, Bryce Thornton and Jordan Cassell, played every single snap, all 93 snaps this game. So I'm going to look at that as a negative as we don't have the depth there. I've already said we probably need to go out and get like 3 safeties in the transfer portal. The injuries there have been horrific. Recruiting, we lost a guy like Xavier Filisame, 5-star safety last year, flipped to Texas just before the cycle closed. So I'm going to say the safety room at number 5 on my bottom 5. I do hope that they can continue to play decent enough. Bryce Thornton played actually really well. Don't really remember him making any mistakes. So if you can't remember making mistakes, I like that, and especially for a DB. Let's go to your top 5, though.
Yeah, back to my top 5. Next up, I've got Elijah Badger. I think a guy that had maybe a bit of a slow start to the year, but I think we see, especially with DJ in the game, man, they have a really good connection. And Badger just tends to get open on those deep routes that DJ likes to throw so much. And it obviously paid off last night for him. 6 catches, 131 yards, and a touchdown on 10 targets, team highs across the board. Just continues to really impress. And again, just a bummer that it's kind of looking like the Gators probably won't have him next year. We kind of had this, we couldn't figure this out for sure, but it seems like he's out of eligibility.
So I do think we found out he has 1 year of eligibility left.
He does? Okay.
So I'm not sure how many games he played in his second season.
Okay.
That's because his first year, COVID year, was his freshman season was a COVID season, and then his next season would have been his freshman season.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. It depends on what he did then.
Yeah.
But also you look at he's probably gonna be getting like day 2, early day 3 draft grades. So he might not want to return. Although playing another year with a guy like DJ Lagway really could boost that stock. And what might be a really young receiver room too. So we do really want him back. Number 4, my top 5, I have Shamar James, 11 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 pass deflections. Pup Howard was out coming into this game, so we really need Shamar to take another step in this game. He's kind of been not playing as well as we wanted him to play. So for him to come out in this game, really lead this young defense around him, Jada Robinson, Miles Graham, Aaron Childs, all getting a ton of snaps. So for the veteran guy in the room to actually step up and make those plays, huge for him. I'm not sure if he's going to return next year as well, because we know he's a junior. Maybe he goes to draft. Maybe he returns for a senior season. Could be the leader of the defense next year that could help lead us to a playoff run. So I'm excited to see what that leads to in the future for the rest of this season and for next season, maybe the NFL.
Yeah, and I'll get kind of more into Shamar James and some other guys in a little bit, so I don't want to go too much there. But I agree. I think you're seeing a defense growing every week, and he's I think at the center of it.
Really is.
So I'll go back to my bottom 5. We've talked about it. I feel like we pick on him a lot here, and I'm not trying to do that. Yeah, it's Jordan Castell. I'm not gonna beat a dead horse here. We just saw him give up a touchdown again. It's just, it doesn't seem to be progressing the way you'd want to see a sophomore with as much experience as he has progressing. I think that's kind of all I'll say, and concur with you that safety remains the biggest need entering the offseason in the portal.
Yeah, so you started talking about a little bit. Number 4 of my bottom 5 is sustainable drives. I mean, whether it's untimely penalties, our first drive of the game, we start in LSU territory or near LSU territory. We end up getting a holding call and a false start, and we get to a 3rd and 13 still, and DK drops pass should have caught. But bad success, either throwing the ball, first down pass, or LSU makes a good play on the run game. And when this offense just isn't on time, on schedule, seems to drag out for maybe another drive. And I go 4 on my bottom 5. That's a play calling thing, execution. I mean, it has to be better, especially if we do want to beat Ole Miss going into next week.
Yeah, I mean, I think you saw there's a possession. I think it was the opening drive of the game where it was holding penalty, false start, illegal motion, and then 12 men on the field on the punt. What are we doing here?
Sorry.
No,
when we got the strip sack and then the LSU lineman hit it up, we also got a holding right there on that drive. It was a big play too, which really sucked. So we would have been inside the 25-yard line, but there was a holding. Both of those holdings were also on Austin Barber, interestingly enough.
Yeah.
He played a good game outside of that, but yeah.
Yeah, and I think there were a lot of opportunities left on the table yesterday, honestly. It could have been worse than it was. But I think they squandered a lot of opportunities and need to do a better job of that moving forward. Going back to my top 5, though, of course, I got him in here too. It's DJ Lagway. Guy's undefeated as a starter in games that he finishes. And I mean, he's not perfect. He's making mistakes. Like you said, there were turnover worthy plays made in this game, but man, the talent is something. I mean, he's capable of making throws that I can probably count on one hand the amount of guys in college football who can. And he's an 18-year-old or 19-year-old true freshman. It's unbelievable. I think he's got a really bright future, and it's, I think you're going to take the good with the bad from him, and you might see some more of that bad next week against a better defense, but it doesn't change the fact that he's spectacular.
Absolutely is. So going back, actually, you already had this guy. I have Elijah Badger at 3. 6 catches, 131 yards, a touchdown. He was making some really good jump balls. Probably could have been higher. He probably could have had 150 yards if he played a little better. I mean, 131 yards is still really good, but he could have played better. He is 208 yards away from 1,000 yards, if I'm not mistaken. if we're going to want to beat Ole Miss, he's going to need to play well. I mean, we should beat FSU even if he didn't play. But I really hope we do see him get to 1,000 yards. Because we haven't had a 1,000-yard receiver since like 2003.
Wait, no one got there in 2020?
No, because Pitts got injured, and Tony was at like in the 900s, and it was a short season.
Okay, wow, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, wow.
And then no one else got it. I mean, when we were under Tim Tebow, we
didn't really have any like elite wideouts in that era.
Percy Harvin will also getting out the backfield, so
yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying.
Yards,
like, he didn't get that many like targets through the air.
Yeah, so it'd probably been back when Rex Grossman, who was Mr. Tubis for this game, he was probably throwing. I can't remember. I think maybe Riedel Anthony.
Well, 2003 would have been Chris Leak. Actually, that would have been Chris Leak, true freshman Chris Leak.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
it may have been like it was somewhere around then. So I'm not 100% sure. But I remember seeing the stat last year.
Jabbar Gaffney, maybe? Would it have been Jabbar Gaffney?
It may have been.
Yeah,
I know because Ricky Pearsall came so close last year. Losing Graham Mertz really killed that for Pearsall. But got to give credit to Badger. Hope he's been getting better throughout the year, as you said. So hope to see him have a strong finish to this season.
Yeah, no, I mean 100%. Continues to impress. Looking at my next in my bottom 5, I've got the run defense. I mean, I don't think it was abysmally bad in this game, but a little bit concerning against a team that really had like no rushing success, so to speak of. Coming into this game, I mean, Caden Durham is a talented player, held him to 91 yards on 20 carries. Like, you can live with that. Same with 69 on 13 carries to Josh Williams. Like, it was more to me just that they started kind of ripping off runs in the middle of the game when you just like had kept them at bay for so much of the game. And it's like, how are you just like letting them run over you like this over and over again? And they kind of settled in. Ole Miss, not exactly a prolific rushing offense either. They've kind of had some issues in the backfield this year, but I just don't love to see that against a team that struggled to run the ball as much as LSU has.
Yeah, for sure. Would really love for us to improve on that. I think the bigger issue was our zone defense. I feel like I kind of get to this on the next bottom 5 as well. Kind of plays just break down, players lose their zone. Nussmeier did a decent job of breaking some plays loose to get out and hit his man for a first down. I don't want to get into this too much because my next point is also this. So I'm just going to say we look like a better offense when we're running man coverage, except for when we put Derek Wingo and Mason Taylor. But outside of that, I feel like this team was playing a lot better in man. Trequez Bridges, he might be a better corner.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be interesting to see him against Ole Miss because I assume he's still going to play corner. But I feel like he might be a better corner than safety.
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly possible. And if you're still going to be looking at injuries in the secondary, I mean, I think there's a good chance you see them kind of run that back again. Same lineup next week. So next up in my top 5, got Jaden Baugh, who I put ahead of DJ Lagway because I think he was ultimately a little bit more impactful in this game. I mean, just only had 6 carries in this game, but felt like a lot more. Just with how how impactful he was in this game, especially with that long run at the end. Obviously, that was kind of the bulk of it. Didn't really run the ball down to down much at all in this game. Didn't really try to, which was weird.
No.
With, you were actually running the ball with a decent amount of like efficiency. You just kind of got away from it. But, he came through, they went back to it at the right time and he came through with the biggest play of the game to seal it. And just an awesome play. If you watch a breakdown of it, he kind of just hit the gap and just made Ashton Stamps, the LSU corner, look pretty foolish. So really good game from him.
Absolutely. And I think another of his 10 yards came like the last play of the first quarter where he had a first down run. Had the big hit. I think it was at the end of the first quarter. It was at the end of one of the quarters. So going into that second quarter, that drive ends up stalling. But great game for Ball. My number 2 on the top 5, Trey Smack, 55-yard kick, a 49-yard kick. Didn't give up any kick returns either. I mean, we've talked a little bit of smack about him because he seems to miss the kicks in big-time situations. But last night or yesterday, he wasn't missing. I mean, so I got to give him a ton of credit for in the 55 and 49 yarder, because those are kicks that if you miss a 55 yarder, you're not going to blame the kicker. I mean, you can, but like 55-yard kick, that's you win some, you lose some. So for him to make it and make the 49-yarder, he definitely deserves a spot on my top 5, and I give him that number 2 spot.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, in spite of the things we've said, like Smack's a really reliable kicker and strong leg, and like we kind of took it for granted with like the Eddie Pinheiro and Evan McPherson years having elite kicking. I think we kind of missed that a lot with like Chris Howard and Adam Mahalik. I think they've got that back, even if he's maybe missed a couple that you would really like to have back. I don't think you really ever worry trotting him out there to try from 50.
No, you cannot.
But yeah, so going back to my bottom 5, I've got the third down defense. I think this was probably the biggest thing that frustrated me during this game from, in terms of a negative, like 13-24 is what LSU was on third down in this game. I mean, just a lot of conversions, just a lot of times you get them to third and long, and you just let them convert, just let Garrett Nussmeier, even though they got to him, like the pressure was great. There were a lot of times that, he would just have just enough time to kind of throw a check down that would be open, or they just run like a draw and you fall for it on third and long. Like that happened too, at least once. So
yeah,
just in general, I think getting off the field was an issue, and that's why the time of possession was so lopsided in this game. I mean, it was very much bend but don't break. I mean, you held them to 16 points.
Yep.
But just frustrating to just not be able to get off the field like they were not able to for much of that game.
Well, that's perfect. My spot was 3rd/4th down defense. I'm pretty sure LSU was at a point where they're like 10 of 15 on third downs, but then they also converted a couple 4th downs in the later half of the game that the play would break down, and the zone, as I got into earlier, it would collapse. LSU in this game had 3 drives that resulted in a 22 minutes of time of possession. But the good thing was that those 3 drives only resulted in 6 points.
Yeah.
Very much bend, don't break defense. And I mean, honestly, the defense does that against Ole Miss, I will be very happy. So we do hate on that 3rd and 4th down because we would like to see the offense on the field more fun. There was a point at like the end of the second half and early third quarter, I was at this game. I was getting tired, kind of. I was like, oh man, this game it felt like it was taking forever because LSU was just on the field for so long. But hey, they got the stops when they needed to. Then at the end of the game, they obviously got a couple 3rd down stops, gave up a couple 4th down. So that's why it's number 2 on my bottom 5.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's totally understandable. Going back to my top, I kind of just hinted at it. It's the pass rush. And I mean, I think you got to credit. I mean, I was kind of going to frame this around the defensive line because I think they're the group that's really taken the biggest step forward. But I kind of want to group the whole front 7 in there together because, like you said earlier, Shamar was fantastic in this game. Those young linebackers playing in place of Pup, Aaron Childs and Miles Graham, they made a lot of plays. I think that, I look at just the way that they were able to just completely disrupt a guy who had really mostly avoided pressure this season. I mean, LSU banged up a little bit on the offensive line, lost another guy in that game on the interior, but I mean, Nussmeier had been sacked 6 times all season coming into that game, and Gators got to him 7 times. So, it really, really impressive. I mean, it's, again, I think I said this yesterday, but it's hard to imagine or hard to comprehend that we're watching the same team that just let Cam Ward operate with an hour in the pocket. Marcel Reed just completely no containment at all. It was just, I think that group's taken a big step forward.
Yeah, I personally went with just 2 specific players. I went Tyreek Sapp and Caleb Banks. Going into the game, we said the players weren't really doing enough one-on-one to make the big plays. And it was like the linebacker blitzes, corner safety blitzes that were helping get the pressure. I mean, Tyreek Sapp and Caleb Banks, those 2 alone, 4 TFLs from Sapp, 2 sacks from Banks, probably also had another TFL in there. I mean, they got there by themselves, really. And then you also added on Shamar James going in and getting some sacks. George Gums having another great game. Cam James with a sack. So really, I had just Sapp and Banks, but just the whole defensive front seven really made great plays that game. Also, honorable mention, Aaron Gates had another phenomenal game, had a great tackle for loss on a third down, I think it was. But and some decent coverage. Want to give him a shout out.
Yeah. No, I think that's probably the most encouraging sign, other than DJ Lagway. The most encouraging sign about the future of the program is just how much better those guys up front have gotten. Looking at the top of my bottom five, number one on my bottom five, we've kind of talked about this like in points, but I'll just kind of wrap it up into one major thing. To me, it's the offensive efficiency. Just not what you necessarily want to see. I mean, Lagway made some nice plays. I think you can see the talent, the potential. Obviously, Ball had that long run, but down to down, you just weren't really doing a lot. 3 of 9 on third downs. Just, again, only ran the ball 17 times, so not a lot to like. You had so few plays that it's hard to even like have a full picture of what the offensive game plan was in this game because you only possessed the ball for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But you're not even 20 minutes.
Yeah,
not even 20 minutes.
It was not even 19.
Yeah. So again, like I don't necessarily think it's indicative of larger trends, but I do think the offense struggled to do that, and then obviously just struggled to take advantage of opportunities. Recovering that fumble I think the 34, and then you just go 8 yards backwards and punt. Just a lot of missed opportunities in this game that I don't think LSU was equipped to really make you pay for. I think it's different with Ole Miss, so I think that's just a lot to clean up on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, mine goes hand in hand with what you just said. I had specifically not running the ball enough. What did we have? 10 carries or not 10, 14 carries that entire game. Ball had 6. I'm pretty sure Jackson had 6 and Montreal had 2.
You're right. It was 14. They're counting 3 team carries here. Yeah. So 14 total like handoffs. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we need to run the ball way more against this LSU defense that stat wise looks like they haven't defended the run really well. But maybe like because of QBs. But we still need to run the ball a lot more, especially when you have a great back in Jaden Ball and you had Jacoby Jackson, who still had a pretty decent average with his 6 carries, about 4 or 5, I'm pretty sure. And I feel like it's more identity of this team and put a little bit less pressure on DJ to make those third and long plays, which she did make a couple of. So there is that. But we just can't be relying on someone who, to me, Lagway didn't look. What would you say, like 80, 85% he was at? Because he didn't run the ball at all.
Yeah, I mean, I listened to him post-game last night, and he kind of just, like, I mean, he didn't say it, but he kind of hinted that he was clearly not at 100%, and just kind of was talking about how, he was able to stay in the pocket because the pocket was protected. Look, he had to step up in the pocket and avoid a defender to make that huge throw to Badger that set up that touchdown, so... Yeah. I wouldn't say he looked like extremely limited. It's just hard to know because him running the ball was just such not a component of the game plan. But yeah, I think 80-85% probably that sounds about right. I mean, I think you'd hope that against Ole Miss, you're able to see a little bit more mobility out of him.
Yeah, I definitely think if we want to beat Ole Miss, we're going to need some of his mobility, especially Ole Miss probably has 3 pass rushers who would be the best pass rusher for LSU.